Hey, welcome, Ram fans. Steve Ivy here with the latest edition, Monday Morning Cup of Coffee on Crackers College Hoops, my new YouTube channel. I'm excited to get going. This is a regularly scheduled Monday morning program. I've been doing this for a while with my blog and then with my podcast, and it's something that seems to work. People seem to like. They relate to getting Monday morning started off with a nice fresh cup of Joe. I got a nice one here. Yellowstone National Park. How nice was that? Oh, that's good. I don't drink fancy coffee, by the way. I know my wife likes fancy coffees, but not me. I just drink the basic stuff. Anyway, let's get going. I'm wearing a T-shirt today. Timmy versus Tubby. A lot of you might remember. You go way back if you've been with the program for a while. Back in 2008. Tim Miles, head coach, brought in Minnesota, coached by Tubby Smith, and they gave out free T-shirts at the game, the famous Timmy versus Tubby game. Great, exciting game. CSU just missed the last second shot to win the game, but it was fun times. And like I said, one of my favorite T-shirts. This is from November 22nd. 2008. So we're approaching 16 years on this T-shirt. Still in pretty good shape. Collar's a little bit frayed, but hey, they don't make T-shirts like they used to. And I'll always love Tim for this T-shirt. I might be buried in this one. Anyway, let's get started here. I've been doing a lot on recruiting. I don't have anything new to report on recruiting, so we're just going to move on from that. The one exciting thing that happens this week is practice begins tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday. And lo and behold, I'll be there. I'm excited to be going. I saw practice in July. I've had a chance to touch bases at a variety of different things with team and coaches. Keep trying to keep in touch with them as much as possible. But as I said, practice begins on Tuesday, and it's going to be it's a great thing to get started now. I'm excited, looking forward to the 24-25 season, see what happens. We got a fresh new team, 4 returners, 5 out of the portal, 4 freshmen. It'll be interesting to see how this team comes together, and we're really going to start seeing it come tomorrow. So I'll try on my Thursday video. I will see if I can have some stuff on there from the practice. See, I might even attend another practice, a couple of practices, see what I can get done in terms of maybe some short interviews, some short video clips and the like. Anyway, that's what's going on. That's the big news. Today, what I'm really going to do is take a look at the non-conference schedule. I thought I'd get started with that. It's an 11-game slate. A little different than last year. Last year was a 13-game non-conference schedule, and what dictated going from 13 to 11 was the Mountain West has decided to expand from an 18-game schedule, a conference schedule, to a full round robin of 20 games where you play each team home and away, each of the 10 other opponents home and away. So with that in mind, it leaves 2 less non-conference games. Some schools weren't real happy with that, specifically San Diego State, who would prefer to play a couple more non-conference games, whether they be at home or whether they be better opponents on the road or neutral, rather than having to visit a Wyoming or an Air Force. Other teams are happy with it. In the end, it makes it easier to schedule only 11 games instead of 13. Non-conference games are becoming much more difficult to schedule. But what I wanted to do today was really take a look at the non-conference schedule, and we'll go through it in order, and I'll rank the opponents by what I think of the importance of the game. So let's pull quickly. Let's pull this up. This is something I pulled together. Conference schedule. Basically, CSU does have they do have an exhibition game with Adams State, Division II Adams State out of the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. They played Adams State last year as a warm-up, right coming out of Christmas, coming out of the holidays. And this year it's a one exhibition game. I'm not sure if any CSU was playing. I'm not aware if they're playing any closed-door scrimmages. I don't know if they can. Last year they played 2. It used to be you could play, I think, 2 closed-door scrimmages, or you could play an exhibition game. So we'll see what happens here. I'll find out more to see if there's anything going on. Last year, CSU played Minnesota in Moby Arena and traveled to Oregon. And they were very, very good growth experiences for the team. This year, it looks like Adams State in an exhibition game. And then we roll into the regular season. And they open with North Dakota out of the Summit Conference. North Dakota in 23-24, a record basically about a 500 team, 15-14. Net ranking of 240. Their best win was St. Thomas, 148. This will be a quad 4 game. Projected in 2024-25 to be, this is, I'm using barttorvik.com again for my projected rankings. Ken Palm hasn't come out with theirs. Bart Torvik has done his. Projected 265th and 7th place in the Summit League. Not a top team in the Summit League, but they'll be decent, and they have a history of going into places and playing pretty well. So then the first games are always a little bit tricky. Anyway, November 4th, Moby Arena. I ranked this 10th out of the 11 games. Let's move on. The next game again later in the week, November 8th, in Moby again. Tennessee State out of the Ohio Valley Conference. You'll see that was a team that 14-15, again, about a 500 team, a lower conference, decent team out of a lower conference. They were 282nd in the net rankings last year. Best win, Little Rock, who was 194 in the net rankings last year. Little Rock happened to be the home last year of Jalen Crocker Johnson, who has joined CSU. He was Mountain West Ohio Valley Freshman of the Year at Little Rock last year. He might be looking for a little bit of revenge against Tennessee State. He'll be playing with a very, very strong team. Tennessee State projected to be very similar in 2024-25, 296 in the projected Torvik rankings. Conference finished 4th. And I tried to do key players. I didn't find any key players for North Dakota because they had so many new players. Basically, they lost their whole team. There'll be a new squad. Key player here, Amir Langley from and I have a typo here. USCC doesn't exist. And no, it's not USC as in University of Southern California. This is the University of South Carolina Upstate. That's meant to be a U, not a C. I had a mistake there. So anyway, that's their key addition there. I ranked this game 11th. I think this is a lesser opponent. This will be a chance for CSU to get into a pretty good rhythm. And then we move to the third game, and this is a little bit of a landmine. And the reason why, they're local. This is an in-state rival. DU comes up from Denver, member of the Summit Conference last year, 13-17. They actually got off to a pretty decent start, and then kind of lost it toward the end of the year. Ended up, their net ranking was better than 200 for a good portion of the year. They ended up 264, best win over South Dakota State at 138. Projected, they lost a lot of players. They lost, I believe, the leading Tommy Bruner, who I think led the nation in scoring. If he wasn't first, he was second, averaging about 25 or 26 points a game. So projected ranking 328, projected conference finish 9th. Key player returning is a guy named DeAndre Craig, who played against CSU last year as a freshman. And CSU struggled to contain Bruner. They finally slowed him down at the end as they trailed. I believe we trailed at halftime by about 5 points. Came back, eventually won by about 10 points. It was a very, very tricky matchup, and I expect this to be a very, very tricky game. And so, while DU is one of the lowest teams in terms of projected ranking, this will be a tough game, and I have this ranked as the 8th team. So the first 3 games really. All basically what you're looking at is quad 4 games. Quad 4, this is how you get the team pulled together. You get the rhythm, you get the sub patterns proper, you get players used to playing together underneath the lights in comfortable environment of Moby Arena. But then we move to the first big test, and that is a trip to South Haven, Mississippi, a neutral game against Ole Miss from the Southeast Conference. This is they were a decent team last year. The net ranking was 90. They had a record of 20-12. Best win, they beat Florida who was number 26 team in the net rankings, and they're expected to be significantly better this year. They picked up a couple of really good transfers. One of whom is a guy they got from Virginia Tech, a very good guard who averaged, I believe, about 15 points a game. A guy named Sean Padula. Don't be fooled by the projected conference finish of 10th. The net ranking, the Torvik has them ranked 39th. This is very much a very good chance this is an NCAA tournament team. For the key player, I put down Jamin Brakefield. I only did this for one reason. I actually met Jamin Brakefield when CSU played Duke in whenever it was, whatever year it was, Isaiah Stevens and David Roddy's freshman season, Nico Carvaccio's senior year. I went back to the game in Durham, and before that afternoon, I took my wife on a little tour of Duke. And one of the beautiful sights at Duke is the Duke Chapel. It is a can't miss thing to see. And we went into the chapel, and lo and behold, Nate James, assistant coach for Duke, was dragging a recruit through, and it was Jamin Brakefield, who ended up committing to Duke and going to Duke and spending, I believe, just a year there. And he's been at Ole Miss ever since. So I put him down just so I could tell the story. He's a good player. Obviously, he was a 4-star player, highly recruited. It didn't work out for him very well at Duke. He transferred to Ole Miss, and he's a good, he can shoot from the perimeter. He'll be a handful, as will the rest of Ole Miss. November 16th in South Haven, Mississippi. As I said, neutral site. I don't know exactly where the arena is, but I believe there's a bunch of casinos in South Haven. It is just south of Memphis, near the Tennessee-Mississippi border. This is a projected quad 1 game, schedule rank. I put this second. It would be very easy to be first, but I put it second for a reason, and you'll see why as we get down the road. So after that game, we come back home and we play a Big West team, University of California at Riverside, UCR, and 2023-24 record, 14-18, 23, ranked 231 in the net. Best win, they did beat UC Irvine, who was the top team in the Big West, perennial top team in the Big West, who was number 82 in the net ranking. So a very, very worthy foe. They're projected to be about 169 in Torvik, a fourth place finish. They'll move up. They're projected to finish higher up in the Big West. I didn't put down key player. It's key players. They are projected to return all their starters. This will be a landmine game. It'll be very, very tricky. And that being said, you can bet that I ranked it 7th. This is a landmine game because this will be a very, very good team looking to get a scalp of a Mountain West team. Let's move on. Next game, we go to Palm Springs, Palm Desert, California. Big Ten opponent, Washington, not Pac-12 anymore, moving to the Big Ten. You remember CSU played them last year. They had a good, solid team last year, ended up with a record of 17-15, but a net ranking of 69. Best win, they beat Gonzaga, number 12 net ranking Gonzaga, in a very, very exciting game. It is a whole new team. They're projected to be very similar this year. Torvik has them ranked 73rd. Just for reference, Torvik has CSU ranked 80th. So should be a very, very even game. Look at the projected conference finish. I think this is hilarious. Can you imagine being the 73rd best team in the country and projected to finish dead last in the Big Ten, 17th? Or it might be 8. They might have 18 teams, and Penn State might be right behind them at like 75. But basically, a bottom of the barrel Big Ten team, and they'll be a handful. Key player, Mountain West Conference Player of the Year, Great Osibor, who signed. New head coach Danny Sprinkle, who was the coach of the year in the Mountain West last year. He'll be that team will be a handful. I have this ranked as the third, tied for third in the schedule. And the reason I have this ranked third is not necessarily because it's the third toughest game or the second toughest game, but it's important. Like last year, the Boston College game, CSU traveled to Kansas City for their tournament, their multi-team event. over Thanksgiving. And the opening game was against Boston College. And Boston College was maybe, just barely top 100. I think they ended up the season about 85th or so in the net rankings. It ended up being a quad 2 game. They were always going to be probably a quad 2, maybe approach, if they fell apart, maybe just a low quad 3. But the reason they were so important was it gave you a shot at Creighton. Creighton was basically a top 10 team. That win was a signature win. What you want to do is you want to win this game because that gives you the opportunity to play either Santa Clara or TCU. And look at the difference. If you win the game, you play TCU. If you lose the game to Washington, you play Santa Clara out of the West Coast Conference. I'll cover them real quickly. They'll be a good team, but it won't be as marquee a game as TCU would be. Santa Clara, a good program, coached by Herb Sendek, who had a lot of success at North Carolina State way back when. 19-13 in 2023-24, 105 net ranking. They play a good West Coast Conference is a good conference. You get Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and the like. Best win, again, their best win was over at Gonzaga, a nice 1-point win over the Zags. Projected in 2024-25, net ranking, Torvik has him at 99. That would put him as very, very bottom of the quad 2. Conference finished 5th. Key player, Adama Ball. This guy's a really, really good player, transfer from Arizona. But who knows? The goal is to get to this game. The goal is to beat Washington, then you get to this game, because then you're looking at a good chance of picking up another quad 1 game. TCU was an NCAA tournament team in 2023-24, 21-12, net ranking 42, best win. They play in the Big 12. They played number 2 ranked Houston, number 2 in the net. So very, very good team, good solid team, and a great conference. Projected Torvik 49th, so that would be a quad 1 game. Projected conference finished 10th. Key players, I put down 3 key players. I'm going to kind of walk through them. These are all transfers. Again, they did a lot of work in the portal. Jamie Dixon, the head coach, did a lot of work in the portal. I put down Frankie Collins, who began his career at Michigan, transferred to Arizona State, and is now at TCU. The reason I put Frankie Collins there, those of us who went to the NCAA tournament game in Indianapolis when CSU played Michigan will remember that their starting guard was hurt. I can't remember his name, but off the bench, they brought in a freshman by the name of Frankie Collins. And Frankie Collins made a big impact on the game. And one of the things he did right before halftime was stole the ball from Roddy and scored a breakaway layup, and it kind of turned the game around. He's an annoying pest, not the most efficient scorer, but he can be very, very annoying. Good player. The other 2 players I listed, Brendan Wenzel and Noah Reynolds, both are from Wyoming. They both played for Wyoming. Wenzel played there through last year. Reynolds left the year before. Wenzel began his career at Utah, came to Wyoming, and is going to be finishing his career in Texas, his native Texas, at TCU. Reynolds played for Wyoming, played some good games against CSU, and then transferred to Wisconsin Green Bay, where he did really, really well. And now he's with TCU. I just listed them because it'll be interesting to see how excited and how up for the game they are if CSU draws them. So I ranked this, again, this is ranked 3rd. This is a very, very critical game. It will be a very, if CSU can get TCU, it'll be a chance to put a feather in their cap. From there, CSU returns home to Moby Arena. Loyola Marymount. We've played Loyola Marymount the last 2 years. 2 years ago in Moby, and they had a good team. They brought in a good team, and CSU played. That was the year CSU struggled, finished below 500. It was Isaiah Stevens' first game back after breaking his foot. Many of you will remember he made a jumper and immediately turned to the crowd and said, "I'm back." That was a classic. They handled Loyola Marymount very well in that game. And then the following year, last season, traveled to Loyola Marymount and had a big game, jumped out to a big lead, watched that lead disintegrate, and then ended up winning by about 8 or 10 points. It's still they're looking to be improved. 11-19 last year, 199. They did beat UNLV on a neutral site technically, but it was in Las Vegas. It wasn't in the Thomas and Mack. It was in a neutral site because UNLV loses the Thomas and Mack during the rodeo in Las Vegas. So they a little bit of a struggle last year. They're expected to be improved, expected to be 7th in the conference, 142nd. Key players, Myron Amey, not Ames. That was a spell check and I missed it. Myron Amey, transfer from San Jose State in 2 games against CSU, averaged 15 points. Very, very streaky shooter, can shoot teams into games, can shoot teams out of games, but he can score when he gets it going. The other player I listed was Will Johnston. Will Johnston torched CSU last year to the tune of about 30 points. Couldn't miss from the outside, kept on making everything from the perimeter. They had a lot of good 3-point shooters last year. He was incredible. CSU, he was shooting, he was throwing up stuff from the second row. But that I have that rated as the 6th best game. So from there, Big 12 Conference, a team from Boulder, Colorado. Last year, NCAA tournament team lost in the round of 32 to Marquette, gave them a good game after beating Boise State in the first 4, and then beating Florida in an exciting game in the round of 64. 24-10, net ranking 25. They were a quad 1 team no matter what, no matter where you played them. They were a quad 1 team last year. Best win was over Washington State. They didn't garner a lot of wins. They played a good solid schedule in the Pac-12 last year, and they played well. But bottom line is they gelled as they went on through the conference schedule and played really, really well in the tournament. This year, they're expected to fall off. They lost their entire starting 5. Torvik has them at 116. This is where it gets a little tricky. And their projected finish last in the Big 12, 16th. Key player, who knows? They have lots of new faces. They brought in a guy named Trevor Baskin, who played at Mesa State. CSU very much wanted him, a 6'9", 200-pound, a 5th-year player. And the kid is a good player. I know the Rams really wanted him. He ended up choosing CU. It's hard for a guy like Bart Torvik when he does his projected rankings. He can't factor those guys in. He only has Division II data, but we saw what Joel Scott did coming out of Black Hills State to CSU last year. Will Baskin have the same kind of impact? I don't know. CU also recruited a guy out of, I believe, an NAIA player, a big man. I believe he was a first-team All-American, 6'11", 250 pounds. And big, strong guy, and supposedly an absolute force in the paint. So again, Torvik couldn't rate him. So who knows if that 116 it might be a little bit of an underrating. We meet on November 7th. I'm sorry, in Boulder. Of course, I'll be there for that one. I would not miss that game for the world. I have this rated number 1, and I think you all know why. After what we saw last week, it is important. Any game with CU in the high visibility sports, whether it be football or basketball, you saw how excited people were just with the volleyball team winning. The volleyball is important to CSU, but on the national stage, maybe not quite as big a game. The CSU basketball game will be a big one. It was a big one last year. It was a sellout in Moby. It'll be a sellout in the whatever they call that arena now. It's not the Foam Dome, not sponsored by Coors anymore. It's probably Bank of Colorado or something like that. Who knows? It's usually a bank. Anyway, number 1 game, and I'll be there and I'll be excited. And then basically we move to finals, and so we go a week. And the following week, CSU travels to Las Vegas for the Jack Jones Classic. In Henderson. It's actually in Henderson, Nevada. It's not in the MGM. Last year we played Washington in the MGM. This year it's at I forget the name of the facility in Henderson, but it's a get together of a few teams. It's a one-off game, and it's with Virginia Commonwealth from the A10. VCU, very strong history. Now coached by Ryan Odom, who spent 2 years at Utah State.
struggled a little bit his first year, second year, very, very good. And he's a really, really good coach. That will be that it will be a matchup of two really, really good up and coming coaches in Ryan Odom and Nico Medved. 2023-24 record 22-13, net ranking 71, best win. They beat Dayton, who made it to the round of 32, beating Nevada. So good, solid team. Expected to be even better this year. You're looking at borderline. It'll be a borderline quad one game, projected to be 53rd. They could go easily. All they got to do is get to 50 or less, and it's a quad one game. Projected conference finish in a strong A10 first. This team is expected to be very, very, very good. Key player, I put Max Shulga down. Shulga played at Utah State. I don't think he was recruited. He wasn't recruited originally by Odom. He was recruited by Craig Smith. Craig Smith left. Shulga stayed. Odom kept him around and then took him to Virginia Commonwealth. Shulga has become a very, very good player. A real, I wouldn't categorize. He's a ball-centric guard who is very, very powerful. He can score. He can rebound. He can pass the ball. You might remember when he came to Moby, the controversy. The year the conflict broke out in Ukraine. He is Ukrainian. There were reports that students were chanting Russia, Russia, Russia. I'm not sure if they were or not. I didn't hear it. I know other people that think they heard it. So I just wanted to bring him in there. Obviously, you won't have anything going on in Henderson, Nevada. This is another game that I am planning to attend. My wife and I like to go to Vegas once a year. Not because we gamble, but because we enjoy, maybe catching a show. If we drive, we'll visit my daughter in Salt Lake and then head down to Las Vegas. It's a great way to split up a trip, but that'll be a fun road trip. So that I have ranked as the fifth game. That's still going to be important. I don't want to minimize the importance of. There's 5 games in the schedule that are probably going to be quad one, quad two games. And if you look at the schedule last year, CSU did really 4-1 in their quad one, quad twos, a tough loss to St. Mary's, but wins over Boston College, Creighton, CU, and Washington all in a row that really, really got them into the national picture. We have 5 out of the 11 are going to be quad one, quad two games, it looks like. So don't think I'm minimizing this just because it's ranked 5th. It's going to be a big game. And then we come home, Big South team. This is basically the final team of the final game of the non-conference schedule. Team from the Big South, Radford. When I was in school at Duke, there were schools that were all girls schools that we knew about. I had a buddy who was at the University of Virginia. Radford's in Virginia. Radford was an all-girls school way back when, in about 1970. So was North Carolina Greensboro. That used to be the road trip heaven for those of us at Duke. But Radford, no longer an all-girls school. They're in the Big South, and record last year 14-17. Net ranking 236. Best win was over Longwood, who I believe was the conference champion of the Big South. They're projected to fall down a little bit. To 290th, projected conference finish 7th. Key player, they have a 7-footer named Xavier Foster, who I believe began his career at I think Iowa State, and then I think he ended up at SMU, and now he's playing for Radford. So I have this as the 9th ranked game. This is basically the final game of the conference schedule. So let's summarize. This is how I have it ranked in order, and you can question it. The first 5 are going to be all very, very important games. I have Colorado because it's the rivalry. It means a lot. Ole Miss, number 2, expected to be easily a quad one game. Washington and TCU, both important, possibly quad one games. And then Virginia Commonwealth. I have Santa Clara 5th only because they are important. And then Loyola Marymount, University of California at Riverside, Denver. Then what I have? I had Radford next. Then I had, Radford followed by North Dakota. and Tennessee State. So that's the non-conference schedule. I'm excited about it. I will tell you this: we have a coach that is very, very good at putting together a schedule that can get you into the NCAA tournament. And I think you're seeing Mountain West teams really try and schedule up. The ones that did well last year in terms of scheduling were San Diego State, Boise State, and CSU. The other schools, Utah State, UNLV, and New Mexico, and oh God, I'm missing one. Anyway, the top 7 schools have all tried to schedule up, and so if anybody can go 11-0 with what they've done, it'll be a heck of an accomplishment. The whole point is build your non-conference schedule. Everybody gets strong, get your team ready for the conference schedule, but create quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities when you get to the conference schedule. There is a chance that last year CSU had, with the schedule they put together and the strength of the Mountain West, so non-conference combined with Mountain West, they basically had about 18 or 20 quad 1, quad 2 games. That's what gets you into the NCAA tournament. If you lose quad 3 and quad 4 games, that's a problem. You can't afford to lose them. I will talk about a little more down the road about why it's important to win those games in blowouts. But bottom line is you can't afford to lose them. The loss that CSU had to Wyoming last year was almost a killer. They managed to overcome it, but a lot that was mostly done by the fact that they had such a great performance in the non-conference portion of their schedule. There won't be as many. I don't think there'll be as many quad 1, quad 2 games this year. I think it'll be more like 15 or 16 rather than 18 or 20, which means it'll put a little more pressure to come up. The Rams are going to have a good record in both in the non-conference and the conference. They can't afford to go 11-9, 12-8. You're going to have to look at probably something more in the 14-6 range for CSU to have a chance to get the NCAA tournament. But it's hard to evaluate that right now. But I think it, like I said, they aren't going to have quite as many quad 1, quad 2 opportunities as they had last year. So with that in mind, thanks for stopping by. I'd appreciate we're gradually increasing the people subscribing to Crackers College Hoops. It's really important to me as I try and build a channel. I realize I haven't done a lot of great material yet. We're trying to get there. I'm trying to do 2 videos a week. The plan is next week to start doing interviews. I have several good people lined up for interviews. As I mentioned in my last broadcast, former Ram stars Isaiah Stevens and David Roddy. I've talked to them. I also, sometime in mid-October, will have Tom Moser, Coach Moser on Twitter. Tom does a great podcast called Top of the Mountain West, where he basically he's a former assistant coach at the collegiate level. Now I believe a school teacher. Anyway, he does a really, really good job. And I wanted to bring him on to get his insight into the entire Mountain West. So we'll be doing a little more from the interview perspective, in addition to doing the regular Monday morning stuff. We'll do Thursday evening as well. I'll try and do bring stuff from practice, and as we get into the season, start doing previews, talking about what's going on around the conference. I'm excited because I'm rebranding the Thursday night show. I started it with Thursday cocktail hour, and I'm rebranding it. We're changing the title. I'm going to move it back a little in time. I'll be competing with Thursday night football. I don't care. I don't watch Thursday night football. There's too much football on. But I'll be going, I think, at 8:00 on Thursday evening. It'll be Swallowpalooza Thursdays, so we'll have some fun on Thursday. Anyway, with that in mind, let's plan on calling the show. As always, I like to finish up with something that's near and dear to my heart.